All right, bro. We are 2 weeks into the year. By the way, Happy New Year to you,
Happy New Year to you too, sir.
Shout out to Adam. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Barely 2 weeks in.
Bro, we have gotten it started for our what I'm
Barely
calling.
2 weeks
listen,
in.
I'm calling this the Mamba year, right? So 2024 is the Mamba year, but I mean, right out the gate, Buddy is jumps the bench
In the courtroom?
in the courtroom.
Man, I thought that was the first time I saw it. I thought it was like some type of AI doctored or like somebody made a spoof video or something. Then I was like, oh no, this is real. And you could see it in his head because the judge started talking about, she's like, I think it's time if you learn a lesson, or however she phrased it. And you could see the gears in his head turning. He was like, well, I guess I'm gonna get my money's worth. That dude jumped over the bench. Like, it looked like when Uncle Phil used to toss DJ Jazzy Jeff out on Fresh Prince. Like,
that's good.
She's talking, and you just see a body just come flying in the screen. You're like, what in the world? And then he started putting licks on her, too. I was like, oh, my gosh.
Dropping them big 14s on them.
Man. We got that. Cat Williams took a blowtorch to everybody in sight.
And I'm sure at this point, at the time of this recording, they'll be talking about how he's mentally unstable and all that stuff will come out shortly after.
Who knows at this point, man? I'm starting to get to the point to believe none of what you hear and half of what you see.
Yeah.
NFL coaches are getting canned left and right. Nick Saban is retired. John Morant's out for the season after showing up and had the Grizzlies looking like they were going to make a playoff run. Like I said, and we're barely halfway through January.
Yeah.
Like, we hadn't even got to Black History Month yet.
No.
There are tunnels underneath New York City. Like, New York City looks like Gotham for real. Like,
shout out to Batman.
Yeah, like hey, where is the Joker? Like, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
So
and by the way, happy Martin MLK Day, Martin Luther King Day.
Yes,
to
thank
everybody
you, sir.
too.
Have you been to the King Center?
Absolutely. No. I'm sorry. No. Not in Atlanta. I've been to the Lorraine Hotel. Or
in
motel?
Memphis?
Yeah, Memphis. Where you shot.
I thought it was the Peabody. Is it Lorraine?
I thought it was Lorraine.
Either way, where all the ducks are and all that stuff. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
I've been there, I think, twice.
Gotcha. Okay, I've not been there. I've been to the King Center in Atlanta, and I've been to the African American Museum in D.C.
Definitely something I want to take my daughters to.
Everybody must go.
Yeah,
everyone must go.
For sure. And a big salute and tribute to Dr. King. Thank you, sir, for the road that you paved and providing so many opportunities for so many African Americans. Is because of you and people like you that really afford us to do what we're doing today, along with so many other people. So we just want to tip our hat to you, and hopefully everybody enjoyed their MLK Day. I'm excited that it's actually a holiday now.
True, although there are some people who didn't want it to be.
Yeah,
that's another conversation.
Now they call it. I think in corporate it's a floating holiday. So
good Lord,
you can choose to be off or not. But
oh my gosh.
I'm going to be off on that day.
Come on now. Come on now.
I've missed too many of them. You know what I mean?
Goodness gracious.
So, we're here, man. Welcome back to the Vision Lab podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Cuffey, alongside my co-host, Mr. Ryan Mosley. The Vision Lab is the official growth mindset podcast for all visionaries worldwide, and we're showing mad love to the cigar community. It's here in the lab where we uncover people's visions and dreams and how those dreams actually come into reality. It's all about tapping into and becoming the absolute best version of ourselves through self-discovery, self-examination, and self-actualization. We talked about it last year. We're going to spend a lot more time just you and I chopping it up,
yes, sir,
putting things on wax and giving the people what they want. I know a number of you guys have been reaching out to us and, wanted to hear more Cuff and Mo. So here you go. First one of the year. Again, Happy New Year to you, bro.
Yes, sir.
We are here, man. And I thought it would be appropriate, right? Obviously it's the beginning of the year. I don't know. Are people still doing resolutions? Do they call them that?
I've heard resolutions. I've heard POAs, plans of action.
Ooh, I like
that. Goal setting, vision boards.
Yeah.
It's all underneath the same umbrella, like what you plan to get done for the new year. It's all underneath the same umbrella.
But I think it's appropriate, right? And I'm kind of curious for you, like when you go into the turn of a calendar, when you come into January, like what is your mindset or what are you looking at to accomplish for the next 12 months, the next 365 days?
You like me personally?
Not like in the weeds, but more so like what is your mindset? Like what are the things that you want to do?
Personally, I'm going to have 3 or 4 developments going.
No,
I'm
what
going
I'm
to
saying
I'm going to
is,
go off
like,
the grid. I'm
I'm
going to be like
saying-
you a little bit.
Well, okay, so let me throw it to me, right? So like for me, a lot of last year was like trying to figure shit out.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It was kind of thrown at me, and I was taking a lot of punches and rolling with it, you know, like a boxer would. But this year, I entitled the year, you know, the Mamba year, right? And so the first thing that I'm doing is just a clean reset. Obviously, I'm back on my juicing. So this entire month of January, I'm resetting body, mind, and spirit. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, you know, starting February, and not to say I'm not doing work now, but like I have removed myself from social media.
You remove yourself from the grid.
I'm off the grid. Yeah, I mean, because I got to get locked in, and you hear it a lot of times on, you know, if you can pour 3, 6, 12 months into yourself, think about where you'll be from there after that, right? And so that's what this is, right? So my mentality kind of coming into this year is attack, is offensive. You know, I feel like I've been on that defensive posture for so long and that defensive position that it's time to go. It's time to move forward. And this isn't like relationally or anything or professionally or anything like that. It's just a mental switch or a mental lever that I'm now adjusting to where I'm saying, look, we're going this direction, right? And no longer am I trying to like defend what I have behind me, right? I'm going forward. And so for me, what I looked at coming into 2024 was obviously I wanted to get spiritually wrecked and get back where I need to be spiritually. The second thing, obviously, is, you know, mentally and physically, right? And so with the physical, you know, I'm refraining from eating foods for the whole month of January, right? So we're back on the juice thing and, you know, doing a cellular detox and things like that. And I feel great. To this point, I've already lost, you know, 22.6 pounds or whatever it was. And I expect that will continue to go probably in the neighborhood of about 30, 32 pounds-ish, somewhere in that ballpark by the end of the month. And that gives me the opportunity to really, you know, go out and be active, right? And one of the things that hit me last year was when you're active, and I don't mean like working out, I just mean when you're in constant movement, like energy is movement, right? Mm-hmm. And this hit me like a ton of bricks, bro. Like, we know that energy can be neither created nor destroyed.
Correct.
Right?
Transferred.
Yes, it can be transferred. So if you're sitting in a position or a spot that you personally don't like, you need to move. And that is metaphorically and it's also physically, right? Like you got to move and get those vibrations to start to hit differently. And then you'll start to get the positive things that you want to happen in your life. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of like your mentality of what I call the Mamba year.
All right. So then to give you a more refined answer, it's all about progress, man. I'm gonna go off the grid a little bit, not in the way that you are, but it's gonna get to a certain point where I'm not gonna be available for everybody. I know we're gonna talk about this later on in the show, but you kind of opened up the door, so whatever. If you're about progress, let's rock. If you're not about progress and you're just talking about it and you just want to be on the sidelines being a cheerleader, cool. But I can't rock with you. Like, I am in progress mode on multiple levels. One of the things that I have recommitted myself to do, I did a really good job in 2022, was I'm gonna try to read a book a month. And I know there's some people out there who are, you know, doing a book a week, whatever, but I got stuff to do.
Hey, well, stop right there because I think that's important, right? Like, I was having this conversation with my homeboy. Like, people need to understand you're on your journey, right? Like, whether you want to read one book a week, one book a day, one book a month, that ain't nobody's business. You know what I mean? As long as you are progressing, right, to use your word, and moving forward. So I want to commend you on that. Like, a book a month, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah,
we got 2 weeks left, and I'll have my first book of the year done probably like the next week or so. So I'm already ahead of schedule.
Yeah. Well, visionaries, I want y'all to understand this. Stop looking in other people's lanes. Like, it doesn't matter what Joe Blow is doing to the left of you, Susie Q is doing on the to the right of you, right? Like focus on what you got to do. I think that's what happens so often is that we get so encumbered with worrying what other people think about what we're doing or how we're doing. Not saying that you are.
I know. I know where you're going.
But who cares how many books somebody reads per day, per week, blah blah blah. Like you're doing this for you, and so I do want to commend you on that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's I think progress is a big word. I was telling you before we started, I got another one of those dreaded calendar links today in my LinkedIn inbox.
You're starting to be like me.
And I didn't snap back at it because he and I are just from different worlds, and I already told you how I'm pretty sure he came across me or whatever. But you say back in the day too, like, hey, you always take the meeting, you just never know. So we'll see how that turns out. But I think progress is the big word for 2024. It's progress. Like if it doesn't have anything to do with forward motion and progress, I don't have the bandwidth to deal with it.
So what created that change, like in your mind? Like why is progress the word for 24?
Because I took all of 2023. I took the back end of 2022 and all of 2023 to plant seed. Sorry, to till the ground and plant seed, to water and to nourish seed and all that. And it's harvest time, and I don't have the bandwidth for distractions. Like I know what I have worked for. I know what I have literally sacrificed time, mental, physical energy, like my body. Like I know I have put in the work. Like nobody can tell me that I have not put in the work for what it is I'm finna get done. So if you're not trying to, and you don't have to have the same goals as me, right? But if you're not about progress and moving forward and whatever it is you're doing, I ain't got time for it.
It's so interesting because we have people on the show all the time, and basically what you're doing is you're saying no more to X. And in this situation, I'm not wasting time. Remember, I used to talk to you about non-revenue producing activities,
Yep.
right? It doesn't have to necessarily be that, but it's really interesting that when we start to get our minds right and say, I'm no longer going to accept fill in the blank, how much more you're able to get done, how much more you're able to accomplish, how much more you're able to achieve, because you're eliminating those quote unquote distractions, and they may be, physical distractions or just impediments that prevent you from actually, walking the walk.
As you say that, I don't really have a lot of quote unquote distractions in my life now. Like, look, I'm focused on my wife, my daughter, my house, and my business, and yes, God, obviously. So I don't have like a lot of quote unquote distractions, but like as I continue to encounter new people and whatnot, and I'm a pretty good gauge now of who's really about progress and who's really about taking action to get something done. If you're not on that wavelength, like, hey, sit on the sideline. I guess I don't know what other way to phrase it, but I don't have the bandwidth to work with you at this point in time right now, because you're going to ultimately, it's going to sound selfish, but you're going to slow me down for what it is I'm trying to get done. And what I'm trying to get done obviously is not as important to you as it is to me.
It's really refreshing for me to hear this right now in this moment, because I was very big on don't chase, replace, right? And that may mean something to me even more here in the near future, but that mentality of let's go get it, I'm all about it. You know what I mean? And that is that mama mentality that, if you ain't helping, you hurting.
Man.
You know what I mean? And not everybody can get on this boat or this ship or whatever, and that's okay, right? And so for me, like, I don't want to be wasting time with folks that aren't going to add to my cup, or that I'm not adding to their cup.
And it doesn't even have to be, first of all, I understand the sentiment, absolutely. Somebody's going to hear me like, man, well, what if I can't help it? I'm not trying to hurt you. Like, reasonable minds would understand what we're saying is, hey, look, we're happy to work with you individually, collectively, whatever, what have you. We're happy to do that. But if you're not about trying to get it accomplished, then, hey, just step to the side and you can cheer us on. Great. But we're not going to have that much contact because I can't afford to deal with you.
Well, let's back up for a second because this bothers me. We live in such a sensitive society.
I know it goes with people's feelings,
right? Like, why do you have to apologize or try to clarify a statement?
I'm clarifying because we all know everyone has different personalities and whatnot. And while I definitely understand, like, either you're helping or hurting, there might be somebody out there who genuinely might want to see us do well, but they can't, quote unquote, help us. So I don't want that person feeling like, well, damn, I wanted to reach out to them, but since I can't, quote unquote, help them, they give me the middle finger. We're not saying that. We're just saying, hey, look, we're about progress, man. And whatever collaboration or projects or whatever it is we happen to work with people on, individually, collectively, whatever, it's about progress. If you ain't about progress, just step to the side, please.
Well, I'm speaking of a situation that we talked about towards the end of last year, and it was very hopeful for this year. And I'm tired of, I'm not talking about this situation specifically. I'm just bringing it to your attention. But that whole sentiment of let me drag you, drag my feet, drag this along or whatever. Like, no, I support 100% what you're saying in that, like, either we're progressing or we're not. And my ship's got to keep going in this direction. So that's all I'm really trying to allude to.
Mm-hmm. I understand. But every now and then, because trust me, I understand what you're saying. But every now and then you do have to provide clarification because everybody don't hear it the same. They'll encoding and decoding thing. Everybody don't do it the same.
I hear you. So what else we got up for 2024?
I think this would be the 5th. Will it be the 5th?
Oh, you want to go there?
Will it be the 5th or 4th?
This is the 5th annual.
The 5th annual TVLP Golf Classic.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Golf Club of Dallas.
Yes, yeah. We're locked and loaded.
Saturday, June
22nd.
Saturday, June 22nd.
We'll
Saturday,
have way
June.
More details coming out later.
Yes, details to follow. Saturday, June 22nd, TVLP Golf Classic, the 5th annual. If you were there last year, you understood how great of a time we had. Prize money, prizes, great for networking, all that. Hey, get your teams and clubs ready again.
Yeah. What's the biggest lesson you learned in 2023?
That everybody ain't like me, and not from an arrogant standpoint, but remember when we had Carlos Reyes on?
Absolutely, dude.
And he was talking about the difference between motivation and commitment.
Yes, sir.
I am committed to my goals.
That's good.
I am committed to my goals. I'm pot committed to my goals. Like this I'm pot committed. And they say poker game you're all in. Like I'm pot committed. Like I'm all in. I'm thoroughly committed to my goals, and I have to understand when I'm talking to somebody who's not quite as either they don't have the same level of commitment, let alone motivation. I am now cognizant of that when I'm talking to people that I'm encountering along my journey. Now, when I run across somebody who's motivated and committed like me, it's lovely because we speak the same language. But like, I had a call 2 days ago, and I've talked to this gentleman on the phone through Zoom and multiple times back in 2023. Like he, myself, and his partner, we're good. Like we all see it the same way. And before he even said Happy New Year, he said, Ryan. I said, yes, sir. He said, are we gonna get this done this year? Because we know what we're working on. I said, absolutely. Like, and I knew what he was saying. He was like, okay, like we went through, I guess you can call it like a feeling out phase or whatever. We're trying to make sure each other were really serious about it. But he started the call off that way. And so it's like I can't wait to meet him in person, right? COVID and schedules and all that stuff and whatnot. But that's how he started the call. And it's like, okay, this is going to get done.
It's funny that you mentioned, I guess it would be the salutation or the greeting or whatever of the beginning of that conversation, because I'm very much like that too. Like I just want to get to the point. Let's just talk about it and make it happen, right? I don't need the pleasantries and how you doing, how you been, like. But I get it. This is a world that again is super sensitive, and so like we gotta build rapport and chit chat for a bit. But I don't even know buddy, but that's how I roll. Like let's just get right on into it.
I'll tell you like this. there is work in progress on big stuff, and when it really starts coming to fruition, I'll make sure that he and his partner are on the show, because it's again, 2023 was about tilling the ground, planting / sowing seed and nurturing the ground, and 2024 is harvest time. Like I said, he literally started the call, and he was like, Ryan, are we gonna get this done? And he wasn't challenging me because he knew what my response was gonna be. Yeah. But it's just like, okay, like, it feels good to be on the phone talking to somebody who is committed like I am.
I love the word committed and versus motivated. And that was a hell of an episode that we had with Carlos Reyes. I think that was season 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah. But a lot of people come into the year, and we'll use weight loss as an example, and everybody's gung-ho the 1st or 2nd of January, and by this time, a lot of people have already quit their goals. But it means something when you are committed to the goal. Like, there is no secondary option. There is no fallback. There is no plan B, if you will.
If you've ever read The Art of War, it's called being on death ground.
Yeah.
It's either we get this done or we perish, or burning the boats. And I forget the guy who actually did it in real wartime. But burn the boats. Like, look, we're crossing this river. We ain't going back. Like, matter of fact, y'all, when we get to the bank, I'm burning the boat. So we got to make this happen, or we're not going to be here.
Well, it reminds me of Eric Thomas, and I think this is probably like, who knows how long he was using it, but he tells that story about the kid that wants to be great.
Yep.
And the guy takes him down there to the
succeed
pond.
As bad as you want to breathe.
Exactly. If you'll never be as successful as you desire to be until you want to have it as bad as your next breath.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a pivotal moment in my life. So, like, when you talk about commitment, like, that's how I internalize that, and I think that's a fantastic word.
Yeah.
For 2024.
Like, it's funny. Like a lot of times, getting big things done always comes down to simple stuff. It comes down to simple stuff. Like, there are some things that can get done. Like, it's really easy to get done, and people make it bigger than it is.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of things there are a lot of great things, a lot of big things, a lot of like borderline historical things that can get done. But we as people get in the way. We make it more difficult than it needs to be.
100%.
Like, I talked to a guy right before the calendar flipped, and we were talking about building a house. He's like, Ryan, he's like, yes, technology is evolved, obviously. He's like, but building a house hasn't changed fundamentally since Lincoln built one, man. He's like, it's the same stuff. He's like, we're just using different materials, and we got the advance of technology. He said, but the concept is the same. He's like, people overthink it. And he was right. And people have completely overthought it.
You know, that reminds me, one of the things that I thought about doing, that I'm implementing this year, is looking at the year as a football game.
So we just kicked off. Or even in pregame warm up yet?
No, we kicked off, and what I mean by that is, when you play ball, especially on like a collegiate level, even high school, especially nowadays, right? But you understand down and distance, you understand situations, right?
The good players do,
right?
Some of them out there just with their heads cut off.
But how important is that though in our life?
Oh,
right, to understand that this may be 3rd and 1, but it's a big situation right now, right?
The Michigan Wolverines definitely understand it. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines.
Absolutely. So, I obviously we got 4 quarters in a year.
Mm-hmm.
You got your overall goal. You got offense, defense, special teams. Like, all those things to me, especially having played for so long, now albeit 20 years ago, but those concepts actually translate into our real life. And I think one of the things I look back on 2023 and years previous, right, is not taking previous experiences and applying those to current situations.
It's all, and tell me if you disagree, it's all a sliding scale. Like, yes, you have to learn from past experiences, and you can use certain things that happen in past / previous experiences, but you can't be handcuffed or bound by them either. You might have been working on a deal at your job or whatever, and the last person you worked on that deal with, they might have burned you, or they might have flaked out. you can't allow that to give you PTSD, because the next person you encounter might be ready to really like go through and follow through on it. But you come into it with PTSD, and the second you get a whiff of anything that you don't like, you're heading for the hills. And it's like, well, no, just use what you've learned and keep it in your back pocket for when it's necessary.
Yeah.
But you can't be a slave, or I hate to use this word, or a victim to past experiences. You just, everything is a lesson. Everything is.
Everything is a lesson. And God has a funny way of showing us lessons. And in that situation, right, like, yeah, you may have had a bad experience with a previous encounter. Doesn't mean you need to, roll that into the next one 100%. But also don't forget about that either. You know what I mean?
Indeed. You just mentioned the word lesson. I have to ask you, what lessons did you learn? Or I mean, what's the biggest lesson you learned in 2023?
Okay. First of all, I'm going to give you a quick shout out.
Okay.
Because you put me on Killer Mike.
Ha.
The what was it called? The album
Michael.
Yeah.
Best album 2023.
And
not even a debate.
And I rocked that album hard. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, because it's going to speak to the second thing I'm going to say.
Okay.
All right. So, the biggest lesson that I learned about myself last year was you can do it. I did that 42-day fast and cleanse and crushed it, right? And there was never any doubt in my mind. So I was able to check that box and understand mentally where I was, right? The framework and from which I was working with. However, this is where the Killer Mark thing comes into play. I also learned that I am the reason for all of my, I'm going to call them failures, mistakes, whatever you want to call them. Like, I'm the reason why it all fucked up, right? No, doesn't matter.
It's taking ownership.
It's taking ownership of it, right? And in that same spirit, right? So, you can bust your ass at whatever task it is. You can complete the mission, but you also have to sustain that. So I really identified that I lack, or I have in the past lacked sustainability. And I want to be able to sustain the things that I've grown and built. You know what I mean? So, obviously, last year was super humbling. Having things kind of torn down for it to be rebuilt. And we kind of talked about that a little bit before
Go ahead and
the
use
show.
that word. Go ahead and use that word.
Yeah, we'll use rebuilt. And now you're in it, right? I'm literally in the throes of rebuilding.
Can we call it your own personal industrial revolution?
Sure. I don't care what you call it, but
for you history buffs out there,
Adam,
I know you like that.
I came out of that, right? Or came out of 2023 understanding that A, you can do whatever you really put your mind to, right? B, the mistakes, the failures, whatever negative connotation or connotative words that you want to associate with it is your fault. And that's okay. You can take ownership of that, right? And I'm excited as ever before because it's about winning. And, a lot of it you talked about commitment, and you talked about, hey, if you're not progressing, like that's my spirit right now, which is why I've shut myself off from like social media. And I mean, I just don't get down like that right now because I'm locked in. And that's the biggest thing, man. When 5.5, 6 years ago when we started the show and we talked about, the name, vision, and lab, I mean, those are two very important, distinct words. And I am in my lab, right? I'm in my lab right now, rebuilding, retooling, restructuring, everything back up. So for me, it is an exciting time because I know that whatever challenge has been put in front of me, I can win and I can overcome, and I have. And so because I've had that experience in the past, I can draw from it. Real similar to what you were talking about with the PTSD situation or whatever, right? There's positive things that you can draw from previous experiences and applying those into, current day.
It's interesting to hear you say that on multiple levels.
Why so?
Because when we get to working on stuff, like we do our best to get whoever it is, we do our best to whatever it is we got to bring to the table to get something done. I know for a fact we do our best to do that, to where nobody can come back and say, hey, Cuff and Mo didn't get us what we needed.
For sure.
And so, yes, we have to own our stuff, right? But then the thing that always vexes me, if I can use a word, the thing that always vexes me is like sometimes I'll look at myself in the mirror and like when I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, like, okay, Mo, you have provided or you have done everything in this that you are responsible for. And so that's the part when it comes to working with people who are about progression. Because and
this is assuming something didn't yield the way that you want it to, right?
Yeah, it didn't yield or whatever. It just didn't go all the way through. So you own your stuff, right? But then you're like, well, wait a minute. If they said, hey, look, man, we're baking a cake, bring us a 1 pound bag of flour. Hell, I brought you 2 just in case you messed up, and something still didn't go right. On one hand, okay, look, man, you own it, but then you know what? Sometimes you got to take a look back, and maybe you weren't working with the right people, or maybe their motivation level of motivation or commitment wasn't the same.
Well, no,
it's an interesting conundrum.
It is, but it isn't at the same time, because you can go all the way back to the beginning. And you could say to yourself, well, you weren't working with the right people. Well, what made you want to work with them, right? What made you want to take on this endeavor? So that's what I'm talking about, like literally taking ownership of everything, because you can't control other people. We know that, right?
Can't.
So all I can do is control the controllables, which is what I do, the effort that I put forward, so on and so forth.
That's the wildest thing about the business world, as I've gotten
into this. It's in everything.
You can't control other people.
You can't.
It's not the fact that you want to control other people, but literally, I think we've all had grandparents say you can't make grown folks do what they don't want to do. And that's the thing about people say they want to do. They're like, okay, well, I need you to do this.
Well, go find somebody else.
You
know what I'm saying? Like,
mm-hmm.
And then your example of baking a cake or whatever, like you brought 2 pounds instead of 1, which is cool. But were you there to oversee to make sure that everything got put in the right way? Did they follow the directions? Was the oven preheated?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, are you doing all the other stuff? Like, and that's what I talk about when I'm talking about, 2024 being the Mamba year. Like, this is your opportunity for people to look at and say, am I literally doing everything? Because the first thing that you said was I did everything I was supposed to do, right? But that doesn't mean that's everything that needs to be done, right? There may be other things that need to be done that you may have to pick up the slack on.
Indeed.
So when I look back at 2023 and understand that, whatever goal I put in front of myself, I can't achieve it. We knew that kind of from I've known that internally for a long time. But the consistency or the sustainability after that project, after that contest, whatever the situation is, after it's over with, right? Can you maintain that? And that's where I really want to get stronger this year. Surrounding myself with the right people is always going to be a constant thing that I want to do is make sure I'm not the smartest person in the room. Make sure that I'm around people that have a servant's heart, that are servant leaders. Energy, man, like just getting up, getting active. And I don't mean like working out per se, which is happening, but I just mean like moving, like everything
pushing the
moves.
Ball forward.
Yeah, everything moves. So let's get it going. Now that it sounds that if anybody's listening and they may have heard me talk about how like, I'm off the grid, that doesn't mean that I'm not moving. You know what I mean? And I want to eliminate any type of distraction that's going to take me away from what I'm trying to achieve. Because
that's why you're off the grid.
Yeah, 100%. The sand is quickly falling through the glass. So we need to make the most of it. And I got 2 beautiful daughters that they got to win.
Dude, is Anaya going to be in high school? Or she got 1 more year?
No.
She's going to be in high school.
Next year.
That's crazy.
Or this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say fall 2024?
Yeah.
Anaya's about to be in high school. That's insane. That's crazy.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think about that until you just said it.
Well, I was sitting here thinking about it because, I got one going to be 6 in October, and it's just like, what in the world? Yeah, it's, again,
one starts kindergarten, the other starts high school. We got to go, man.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I've learned, this wasn't a 2023 lesson, but it was something that really, really touched my spirit, is that when you get outside of yourself and work for others and work to do for others, I think you end up getting. I think you see success more frequently because you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for other people and for the right reasons and things like that. So, like, I just want to, like I talked to you about servant leadership and having a servant's heart. Like, being able to serve other people is a big thing for me.
I can dig it. I did see the juice when you came in. I was like, oh, he's back on it.
Yes, sir.
And last year when you went on your whole cleanse/fast or whatever, and you said you were doing it, and I was like, okay, he should be able to knock this out. The only time I was ever worried about you, I think you remember this, you had gone to a family function, and I can't remember if it was, I think you said you were on your way back home. And I remember you were just like, Mo, there's just so many damn restaurants out here. God. I was like, oh, he might be a little shaky.
After the fourth.
Whatever day, I just remember that. That was the first time I was like, oh, he might not make this. Nah. You were just like, Mo, there's so many damn restaurants out here.
Listen, that for anybody that does a fast for an extended period of time.
How many days did you go? 40?
42.
42.
Yeah. And this one I think is 30 or 30.
Oh, you'll knock that out. That's easy.
It's 30. You
can do that standing on your head.
Yeah, it's light work. But yeah, I mean, like, you just don't realize how much, like, how many food commercials and advertisements are out there, whether it be billboards or, I mean, I promise you can't go 30 seconds without seeing something that has to do with food. And it could be healthy, nutritious food or fast food or whatever, but it was super interesting. And so, again, taking that experience and having knowing that, right? Because you got to remember, that wasn't my first fast, right? Like that was the longest one I've ever done. That was the longest
one because that was different than like your
7 day,
your yearly first quarter of the year cleanse thing.
Well, that cleanse only is more specific to alcohol, which I'm doing right now as well. But with the fast, like, I've done 7 and 10 days, and typically, if I'm being truthful, because we're family here, I'll quit it or stop. Like, either right at the finish line. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's been times I made it through, no big deal. But my point in saying all that is that 42 days was a long period, and you realize, my God, there's a lot of food advertising that's going on, right? And so, it's a experience that I'm certainly drawing from right now and applying it, and so it's not a big deal. We're only, 15, 16 days in? Yeah, I'm not even tracking it like I was. Like, I'm not counting it down like I was before.
We'll cross a threshold or something like that in February or March, I guess sometime in April because of the whole alcohol thing or whatever. We'll do something fun, but yeah, you're not even counting days now. You're just back on it.
Yeah, again, locked in. I'm just focused on that particular endeavor. Like, that, it's categories or boxes for me, right? So, like, that's health, that's wellness, that's mental clarity. Like, that kind of falls in that category.
This might be a loaded question,
I'm ready.
Especially with it being the first episode for the new year. What do you want to see TVLP do in 2024?
What do I want to see TVLP do in 2024?
In our swan song.
Have a good time.
There it is. All right. I'm down with that.
Be in the moment. Have a good time. Continue to learn. We never worry about getting guests on the show or anything like that. And obviously we kind of pulled our foot off the gas on that a little bit, and wanted to spend more, one-on-one time. But when we have guests, really like learning from them. Right, we've been very, very, very fortunate to have some amazing people that have sat with us and talked to us or whatever. And I think when you go back and you can listen to those archived podcasts, there's just a lot to learn. And I just want to continue to learn. I want to continue. I want the show to continue to provide opportunities for people to learn from other people and get better. If somebody's in a real dire strait or whatever, and they hear an episode from us and they turn their life around, like, those are really, really neat things to be associated with. So let's just have fun. Let's continue to learn, continue to surround ourselves with the right people, and continue to impact lives and help people get out of or get through tough situations.
Indeed. I dig that. As we get ready to kind of wind it down just a little bit, right? I'm going to ask you this now, and I will ask you this later on in the year, given your current state of everything you got going on. If you could have a round table today, who would you want at your round table today, and why?
Well, I'm going to start with Kobe, and I think Kobe was one of my tables before, because it's 2024, so Kobe would be there. I want my grandmother, Doe. I want her there. And Steve Harvey. And I am a big Steve Harvey fan from the perspective of knowing what he's gone through in his life, not necessarily like Steve Harvey the comedian or Steve Harvey the host. Like, I don't really think he's that funny, but I do like his mentality on like mindset and everything, and his relationship with God. So that would be where I would draw it from. And just because it's fresh, I would say Cat Williams.
So we're gonna have a table with all kind of. We're gonna show them to start the year off with just angst.
I mean, listen, for all of what we know about Cat, I think the dude is brilliant. I don't
he's
think
smart, and if you're paying attention, he's telling you, and he knows it.
This is he's a puppet master, right? He's just pulling strings. But anyway, so Cat Williams, Steve Harvey, my grandmother, Kobe.
One more. So we're gonna have Granny at the table who's chilling. Doe. We're gonna have Doe at the table and everything's gonna be cool, but then we're gonna have two people who are complete opposites.
No, she'll be in the back making fish.
And we're gonna have two people who probably can't stand each other right now, just staring a hole at each other at the table.
Nah.
Somebody's got to balance this out.
Mm-hmm. All right. So.
And we got Kobe on one end of the table too, the guy who will kill everybody in the room if necessary.
And I don't want to stay comedians the whole time. You know what?
You better get somebody in there who can kind of even all this out. There's a lot of aggression in this table.
Comedians are all flooding my mind right now, but I'm gonna stay away from that. I'm gonna say, because I do really respect this dude, and I like what he's done. I like where he's come from. I'm gonna say Ryan Clark. And I know we've never had that name on the show. I'm a big.
That just might do enough to even it out.
I'm a big RC fan.
That might just even it out.
First name's great. Got the last
he's
name.
He's got a great
Clark.
first name.
Yeah, for sure. So Ryan Clark would definitely be there. Yeah, that would be a good list. Good little table.
It's a very good table. You're finna say there's a lot of aggression at that table. We need somebody who kind of balance all that out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of people, that obviously we ask this to everybody all the time. And it's fun, right? Because it really makes you think, and you start talking about balancing people out. I look at, obviously, my grandmother just to continue to give me those positive words of encouragement, believe in yourself, blah, 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 that type of stuff. Steve Harvey, for what I know he's gone through, is real similar to what I've gone through. So that's kind of why I look at him as that beacon. Cat Williams, I just think that dude is, first of all, he's trending right now. But beyond that dude is brilliant. And if you're truly paying attention, like, everything is orchestrated. And then, like you said, Ryan Clark is just a guy that you kind of aspire to be. Clean cut, looks good, sharp.
He's clean cut with them suits on. That dude is covered in tattoos.
Well, 100%. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I can identify and relate with that a lot. But when the lights are on, he's
that's his thing.
Yeah, it's showtime. So yeah, I think that would be my list.
Very interesting. What book are you reading right now, Cuff?
Bro, I have so many books that I'm reading. And The Tipping Point is one. The Bible. I'm reading the Word. I'm back into the Word. Every year I try to start off with Think and Grow Rich. So that's one that I'm going through. And I think I have Michael Strahan's book. I can't remember.
I didn't know Strahan wrote a book.
He's got two, actually.
I had no idea.
Yeah. But honestly, the first 2 weeks of this year, I haven't been in the books as hard intentionally because I've been renovating. You know what I mean? So
it's an inside joke for you listeners out there.
Yeah, the books are definitely on deck. But Think and Grow Rich, Tipping Point, and obviously the Bible.
Not a bad start to the year, Chief. Not a bad start to the year.
So, with all that being said, what are you doing right now in January? Like, what books are you reading? What's going to make you progress this year besides your own effort?
Right now, I'm reading Rich Paul's book, Lucky Me. Rich Paul, LeBron's agent. I believe he's CEO and founder of Clutch Sports, all that. So I'll probably be done with it in the next 5-6 days. It's an interesting story. It's not a story that we have not heard before in the African American community, but to see, from his perspective, if you will. And the funny thing about it is, I'm halfway through the book and it's got nothing to do. I think that's where he really is going to win with the book for those who read it. I've read 120 something pages of it. I think it's like 230 pages long, something like that. He's only mentioned LeBron up to this point in the book. He's only mentioned LeBron like maybe twice in the whole book up to this point. It's really about him, his upbringing. He is who he is because of his dad. His dad is of that generation of men. And they're from Cleveland and whatnot. So, they lived through the Rust Belt, and all of a sudden everybody looked up and everybody was gone. At the same time, everybody was leaving. Crack was hitting their neighborhoods and whatnot. So his dad really gave him some really good life lessons. And so, I'll let you know next time we talk, what I think about the book once I'm done with it.
Is it an ebook or you got the hard?
I read hard copies.
Amen. Shout out to you. Me too.
After I finish that, I've got a Deepak Chopra book that our good friend Megan sent me.
She gave me one too.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but I'm going to read that. And then I'm going to read Jeezy's book in March.
Wait, say it again?
I'm going to read Jeezy's book in March.
Jeezy?
Yeah, I'm going to read his book in March.
I thought he said Jesus' book.
No.
That was the Bible?
I mean, hardy har.
No,
I got you. No, I'm going to read that book in March.
Adam, you heard that too, though.
Yeah, it's the book Jesus wrote. Yeah, Jesus wrote that book, yeah. No, I'll read that in March.
Jesus got a book now?
Right? Yeah, I heard it was on Kindle. Those are the first 3 books I'll read this year. Not that I'm not, present and dedicated or whatever, but I'm going to do the best that I know how to do. That's the thing about it too. When you get to a certain point, it's like nobody knows everything. You just try to do the best that you know how in the moment, but at the same time, you keep trying to figure out how to do things better. So I'm going to try to do my best with what I know to do to be an even better dad and even a better husband. Like I said, just like you in the sense of like, I pretty much I trimmed distractions out of my life a long time ago anyway. But I wake up every day, thank you God for letting me see another day. All right. This is my wife.
Clothing in my right mind.
Clothing in my right mind. Hey, my granddaddy wasn't lying because I've seen when people are not in their right mind. But I wake up every day. What does my wife need? What does my daughter need? Before I think about what it is that I need to get done.
And that's what I was talking about before, servant leadership. And I think when you start putting other needs first, and I've told you this a long time ago, the more people that you help, the more, help people get what they want, the more things you'll get, right? We know that. But when you are putting others first, I just think that God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, right, will bring it will draw near to you because you're not doing it out of selfish reasons.
That, and this is going to sound like such a simple concept, but I've gotten to the point that I've made it to now, just in the business world, by just doing right by people. It's such an underrated concept. Because it's all
valued.
Yeah, it's business, right? So everyone's trying to make money, right? But you have to do right by people. One of my partners I work with on stuff or whatever, like I just keep them in the loop, and it's not even the fact of like it's just like I've been working with him now for I don't know, damn near 2 years. Never been blindsided by anything. And I make sure he's never blindsided by anything. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, like he knows if something pops up, like I'll be the one to tell him. Like we're just not gonna walk into a meeting or a Zoom or something like that. And he just be like, oh, surprise. And I knew about it and didn't prep him before we walked in there. And it's just doing right by people. It's an underrated, it's an undervalued, it's a lost art, I think. Just doing right by people, man. Just doing right by people. You'd be surprised how far it can get you in life.
So as we wrap up the show, I've got a question for you.
Proceed.
It is December 31st, 2024.
Ooh.
You get to look back at the year. What will you be able to say about 2024?
That the trajectory of my bloodline has been changed forever. The trajectory of my bloodline has been changed forever. And I'm going to do my best to for those who come behind me, I'm going to do my best to set it to where it continues to progress and move long after I'm gone. That's the plan. That's the plan. That's why we're into my progress. That's why I'm on a greater mission here, man. Like that's why I can't, if you're not working towards progress on whatever it is you're trying to do, I can't spend energy on it. I can't. Rome wasn't built in a day. You've been fasting for literally 2 weeks, not fasting, but juicing for 2 weeks.
Fasting,
juicing, all the above. Cleansing for 2 weeks. Drop 22 pounds. You didn't drop 22 pounds in a day, but you're wise enough to understand that like you're gonna feel it inside before you see it outside. It's progress. And so if you're not on that same train, man, it's a subject to consideration at best.
We're going sizzling.
I already told you something I'm working on. When that hit, that'll be the day you blow your fast. I'm not taking no for an answer.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm all in. That and if the Cowboys win the Super Bowl.
Boy.
Couple weeks. We're going to find out.
Boy.
Couple weeks. But, yo, man, it's been a really good first episode of 2024. I'm excited. It's going to be a great year. I'm looking forward to it.
Happy New Year to everybody again.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Happy MLK Day to everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of the Vision Lab podcast. I'm Ryan Cuffey.
I'm Ryan Mosley.
We'll see you guys next week on another episode of the Vision Lab podcast. Blessings.